Happy New Year! It is 2026 and we are still doing this. That's right, you lucky dogs. Joining us from around the globe, but joining a bit closer to home, sort of, is Leo. Hello, Leo. Happy New Year to you.
Hey, Neil, Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm okay. 2026 has started as 2025 ended with its foot right up the wrong place. But we've got a well, I was going to say an interesting show today, but our show has been thrown completely off tracker because there's been a lot of breaking news today, which we're going to cover in depth and have lots of discussion, lots of managerial problems and dismissals in the last few days, and potentially more in the next few days to come. Big stuff to talk about. But we should probably start at some form of order. We're going to start with our Premier League roundup and a gem for everybody watching. Everybody, by the way, as well, just to remind you guys, if you are watching the live stream, feel free to send us any questions you may have. I was going to say send us any live comments, but don't, because that might be mean. Be enthusiastic, be encouraging, but no, never mean. But yes, let's go to the Premier League. So yet again, the busy Christmas schedule in the English Premier League raises its ugly head. So we have another midweek set of fixtures. On Tuesday, Newcastle ended their terrible run of form by winning 3-1 at Burnley, 2 goals in the opening 10 minutes. Also, Chelsea drew 2-2 at home to Bournemouth, which ended up being Enzo Maresca's last game in charge. More on that in a little while. Nottingham Forest lost at home 2-0 against Everton with a goal either side of half-time for them with Garner and Barry. West Ham United 2, Brighton 2. We need to mention Danny Welbeck's penalty at some point. Arsenal, fantastic performance against title challengers Aston Villa, winning 4-1, putting the Villains back in their place. Well, in third place, actually. And Manchester United drew at home against Wolverhampton Wanderers, bottom of the pile, only 2 points up to that point, but no, an extra 50% of points for them with a draw at Old Trafford. Then nothing happened New Year's Day because no one does anything on New Year's Day. And then on the Thursday, Crystal Palace drew 1-1 against Fulham. Liverpool drew 0-0 against Leeds United. By the way, this wasn't a particularly interesting Thursday. Brentford drew 0-0 against Spurs, which is one of the worst matches I've ever seen. And Sunderland drew 0-0 against Manchester City, although that was actually very fun, 0-0. Right, so that was the midweek action. We're going to have a quick chat about something there because, of course, Chelsea 2, Bournemouth 2, that was Enzo Maresca's last game in charge and the first managerial casualty we are going to discuss. Now, obviously, there had been a little bit of tension building throughout December, not only because of Chelsea's in different form, but also Maresca had started vocally criticising possibly the people above him and the structure of Chelsea. And it seemed the situation was slightly untenable. What would you say?
Yeah, I totally agree, and it makes me think about another manager we are going to talk about in a few minutes, Ruben Amorim, of course. But their situation, I can't say they are the same because Chelsea are above Manchester United in the table, but everything surrounding the managers seems to be the same or quite the same. And even on the pitch, because Chelsea had difficult results this past week, only qualifying to Cardiff City in Cup. They lost and drawn games they should have won. So difficult situation for Maresca, and everything about his possible Manchester City situation, I think it also put the pressure on him. And
So for those of you who haven't heard any of the story, so it's said there have been reports that Maresca has been in contact with Manchester City potentially as Pep Guardiola's replacement, and of course they have to announce to the Chelsea board and director of football and so on that there has been contact, and in doing so, Maresca asked for a new contract extension, although he's only 18 months into a 5-year contract. So there did seem to be a bit of a strange timing of it all as well. Yeah. Do you think Maresca, before we talk about the matches itself, Chelsea are 5th in the table, and barring some catastrophe, that will be enough for a Champions League place. Chelsea are 5th. They are the Club World Champions. Yes, they won the conference, and were expected to. But that was that 2 trophies and 5th place in the Premier League. This is hardly a disaster. This is hardly, like I said before, a catastrophe. And yet, he seemed to have absolutely no goodwill. Do you think that perhaps if he had the fans on side, this would have been more of a power play? Because it did seem that he seemed to do this from a position of weakness as opposed to of strength.
Yeah, talking about Maresca, I got a question. What the deciders want from him? What do they expect from Chelsea right now? To win the Premier League, to be on top in the Champions League? I don't really know, because as you recall, Chelsea are 5th in the league. Of course, they have made some difficult results recently, but they are not like, remember last year, like Manchester United or Tottenham in the 17th and 16th place. They are in the race for the Champions League qualifications at the end of the season. They're still,
and also we should point out they're not just that they are in the Champions League.
Yeah, of course, and they have beaten Barcelona 3-0. And funnily enough, it was the end of the beginning of the end for Maresca, because after that Barcelona result, the next results went down. So that's strange.
So Chelsea still in 4 competitions, 5th in the table, the champions of the world, but still not good enough apparently. So Maresca is gone, and
with injured players also, we have to say.
And also, and actually using a lot of considering how much money has been invested in their squad, actually having players like Chumapong and players like that actually being part of the squad. Excuse me, strange situation. But of course, this is going to be a bit of a mix, because obviously we talk about Ligue 1 itself, but there is only one person in the running for this job, and it seems to be Liam Rosigne, former Fulham player. Pardon me. Now, obviously, currently still the Strasbourg head coach. Strasbourg are also owned by, is it Bluco?
Bluco.
Yeah. Now, obviously, Liam Rosigne has had a lot of praise and been wildly admired as like this new tactician, a young coach who would certainly seems to inevitably reach a high level job. And last year did incredibly with Strasbourg. But it should be said, this season, I think they're currently in 7th. 7th place, 24 points. I think they're 8 points behind the Champions League place. It doesn't really point to a high, like a high point, like a peak for Rosigne at Strasbourg. It does seem like it's sort of dipped slightly, and yet now's the time that Chelsea seem to be taking him. Do you think they are forced into this somewhat, because some have felt that this may have been a longer term plan, so maybe in the next season or two, Liam Rosigne, having worked with Bluco before, being able to sort of fit seamlessly in at Chelsea. But it feels like this may be slightly too early. And apart from anything else, I'm sorry, this is a 2-part question. And secondly, it seems like the Strasbourg fans, as furious as they are with Bluco anyway, as treating their club as a feeder, now seem to be disrespecting it entirely by taking their manager halfway through the season.
Yeah, firstly, I agree with you. I think it's too soon for Liam Rosigne to take on at Chelsea, because, his record at Strasbourg is and will remain really interesting, because he qualified them to the European Cup with one of the youngest squad in Europe, so which is difficult. But this season he has lost a lot of. The problem is that he has lost mainly his big games. They have lost against Lyon, against Monaco, against Marseille. They have drawn against Paris. So they had troubles facing the big names. And the thing is that he's a young coach who is moving from a familial club, because Strasbourg in France its reputation. It's that it is a really family club to one of the biggest name in world football and in the Premier League. And I think it will be really difficult for him, to be honest, at this moment. I don't know, in 2-3 years maybe, but at this moment I think it's too soon for him.
However, I'm assuming, because obviously there is no other manager in the running for this currently, assuming that he does get the job. He is currently in London. We know that.
Yeah, he flew from France to England yesterday.
But also, it may well be that there's a roll of the dice and it works, because obviously he was thrown in at the deep end with Derby and performed admirably, actually, in charge of them. And that was with a very, very young side. With Strasbourg, very, very young side, who say one of the youngest in Europe. And of course, Chelsea have the youngest squad in the Premier League and one of the youngest across the Champions League. So he has experience working with these young players and developing them. So perhaps that's the bigger picture stuff. But then again, the question is, if he doesn't qualify for the Champions League, is he going to be given a bit of flexibility?
Yeah.
But
okay, some interesting point just to point out is that if he is if he's to become the next manager of Chelsea at the end of the season, he will rejoin with Emmanuel Emega and Mamadou Sarr, who are already signed to Chelsea. So it can maybe help him to think about already the next season in the Premier League with players he knows. So I want to see what he can do there.
So let's look at the results from the weekend. So on Saturday, Aston Villa, bounced straight back from that disappointment against Arsenal, winning 3-1 at home to Nottingham Forest. A bizarre goalkeeping error for John McGinn's second goal there. Brighton beat Burnley 2-0. It happened. We played the game last week. When will Wolves win? Well, it was yesterday, winning 3-0 against West Ham. Absolutely blew the Hammers away in the first half. Bournemouth 2, Arsenal 3. A bit of a scare for Arsenal, but they held on and controlled to the end. Then yesterday on Sunday, Leeds United 1, Manchester United 1. Leeds United's unbeaten run extends to 7 matches now, which is their best since 2001, I believe, in the Premier League. Newcastle United 2, Crystal Palace 0. Newcastle finally have 2 wins on the bounce. Spurs, Tottenham Hotspur 1, Sunderland 1. More misery there. Fulham 2, Liverpool 2. One of the goals of the season, anywhere, anytime. Fulham's equaliser in the 7th minute of stoppage time for Harrison Reed. And Manchester City 1, Chelsea 1. Now, here's the thing: we've got to keep this show within an hour, more or less. But there's a lot to unpack. So first of all, let's talk about the big news that happened today. The announcement today after Manchester United drew at Leeds United yesterday. Ruben Amorim has been dismissed as Manchester United's head coach, and it's also been announced that they are not looking for a permanent replacement. They are going to look for a caretaker until the end of the season. There are 2 big questions. One, why now? Because there have been plenty of low points during this strange period. I think it's 13 months Amorim's been in charge. There have been far lower points. There have been far more disastrous moments. Why now? And secondly, is this, I suppose the second question is this the wrong time, considering, and I will point out, we were just speaking about Maresca with Chelsea in 5th. Manchester United are tied on points with them in 6th place. So why now? And what more were they hoping for?
That's a good question, because I think that what is quite amusing in Ruben Amorim's dismissal is that it was not only due to his results that could have make him being dismissed, because they are quite bad for a club like Manchester United, but they are due to what is said, mainly to what's said in at the post-game press conference. And it's funny because it shows that some people at the club felt offended by what he said. And I think there is a part of truth in it, because if it was not to be the truth, maybe he would have been left on his role. I don't know what you think about it, but if
well,
they reacted so fast, it's because they felt, okay, maybe he's right, and I don't want.
Well, so I'm going to open this up a little bit because also, I mean, the three things you may have missed this week. Another one was going to be Wilfred Nancy, the Celtic head coach, has also been fired today. He's been released from his position after 6 defeats in 8 matches. The latest one coming at home against Rangers, the fierce Glasgow rivals, 3-1 at home. Sorry, strange noise here. Yeah, so obviously a lot of dismissals happening, but I would like to bring up the Premier League. So in 4th place currently is Liverpool on 34 points. 5th, Chelsea on 31, Manchester United 31, Brentford on 30, Sunderland are on 30, Newcastle 29, Brighton 28, Fulham 28, Everton 28, Spurs 27, Palace 27. So between 14th and 4th, sorry, that's my dog if you can hear, between 14th and 4th, there are only 7 points. And more specifically, between 14th and 5th, the last Champions League spot, are only 4 points. So it feels like managers, for example, at clubs like Chelsea, Manchester United, there is a real opportunity for someone to get into the Champions League this year. And it's across basically 10 teams. And so it does feel like perhaps there are these clubs that are going to roll the dice and take a risk, basically replacing the manager, because all you need to get 5th place currently is a bit of consistency. And yet all the teams we've described are either massively overperforming in the way of, say, for example, Brentford or Sunderland, or they're these huge clubs that are completely inconsistent. So do you think any other clubs are at risk or any other managers are at risk? I've written down a few. For example, Thomas Frank at Spurs. Spurs are down in 30. And yet only 4 points behind Champions League. Frank could be at risk. Even Arne Slot, even though he won the Premier League last year, Liverpool are not guaranteed a Champions League place. So these clubs, especially teams that have invested so much money, need a Champions League spot and can't really afford, quite literally, to make that mistake and miss out.
Yeah, and the main point is that I think because there are Arsenal, Manchester City, and Aston Villa, I think they are practically guaranteed to claim the Champions League spot qualification. So it would mean that only 1 spot remain, maybe 2.
Well, if we include Liverpool in the discussion, Liverpool are 4th on 34, but they are 8 points behind Aston Villa, and only 3 points clear of the teams behind them. So they are at risk.
Yeah. So the 4th spot will be really hard to achieve for all of these teams, even if, to be honest, I don't think it will be Crystal Palace, Tottenham, or these teams, because they are too inconsistent. Liverpool, Chelsea, and even Manchester United seem, I think, just better than the other ones to claim these spots. So it will be a tough battle between them. But yeah, and I have a question. Do you think the level of the Premier League has regressed this season? Because, I'm not impressed by any team like I could have been a few years ago. Even Arsenal, they are really good, a really good team. Of course, Manchester City too, but they don't sweat the same thing like the past, some of past teams. I don't know what you think about it.
I know what you're getting at, and to some extent I agree, but I'm not sure it would mean like the quality of the Premier League. It's the quality of what's referred to as like the middle class teams. So like the teams that usually finish, mid-table have gotten better. They are better equipped at defeating the teams above them. So you see this where, for example, with Klopp and Guardiola's title chases with Liverpool and Manchester City, they were posting ridiculous numbers. We had a 100-point season. We had a team finishing 2nd with 98, which is ridiculous. But that also points to the fact that they could genuinely beat literally every other team home and away, more or less. Whereas the last couple of seasons, you've seen that total has very much come down because more and more teams are taking points off the big lads. And then what you also have had in the last couple of years, which have been very fun, are the so-called Big Six dropping out of the Champions League, because not only are they more vulnerable to middle classes, but now you've got more ambitious middle class teams, like Aston Villa, like Newcastle United, that are suddenly sort of standing up and swinging, so to speak, and have had big success with it. It's very interesting. And also, for the first time in 3 seasons, the promoted teams are doing well, minus Burnley.
Yeah.
Or like Burnley are doing what they expected. They're still not out of it, but they're at risk. Whereas Leeds United are proving incredibly hard to beat in the last month or so, and Sunderland are having a wonderful season. So if anything, the quality of the Premier League has risen. It's just risen from the bottom as opposed to the top. But in doing so, you do pull down the top a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
So, sorry. I mean, we've been speaking 20 minutes about sort of the Premier League, but also about these managerial changes. So a couple of questions looking at the bottom of the Premier League. So Burnley in 19th are on 12 points. West Ham, this is going to be our one of questions, who I personally think might be the worst team in the league, despite Burnley and Wolves at the current state. West Ham United in 18th on 14 points, 4 points behind Nottingham Forest on 18, and they're now 4 points behind Leeds United, who are slowly pulling away. So if these bigger teams like Manchester United, like Chelsea, are making the managerial change with January in mind as well, do you think we're going to be seeing this with these teams as well? For example, Scott Parker at Burnley, or Nuno Espirito Santo at West Ham United, these teams in the relegation zone currently and hugely at risk.
Yeah, concerning West Ham, I think the problem is bigger than only change the manager, because it's been quite a few months that we don't really know where West Ham want to go with the decisions of the direction, and this is difficult to say where this club is going. Last week we predicted that this game against Wolves were finally the one for Wolves to win, and we aren't disappointed by this. West Ham, they are now the worst defense in the league. They conceded their second defeat of the season to Wolves, because Wolves have only won 3 games this season, including 2 against West Ham. So I think it makes them the worst team in the Premier League. If you are beaten twice by the worst team regarding the points total in the league.
So for context, West Ham have not won a match since the 8th of November. And that was against Burnley. That was a 3-2 against Burnley. So worrying times for the Hammers. But I should also point out, because I was saying before about why Man United and Chelsea might be risking it now, because that huge collection of teams in the middle, all of whom could feasibly get the Champions League. Talk about a January budget. Manchester United is reported do not have one. So they're very much like the only thing they can change is the manager, although they've had to pay out the entirety of his contract because there's no release clause. So the fact is, like, if there's no money to sort of bring in any new faces in January, they are kind of asking for a minor miracle for whoever to come in to sort of just to shake things up, but essentially use the same players that are underperforming.
Yeah, Manchester United situation is so difficult. We can also see that with Nice, because of course Ineos are the owner of Nice, and the situation is sensibly between both clubs, and even harder for Nice. So I think Ineos are a plague to Manchester United, and the problems they face, they are really tough for them to face.
Right, we should stop that talk there, because we've been basically speaking 20 minutes about managers in the Premier League. But before we go, we need to mention a couple of things that are sort of more positive news. Great week for Arsenal. Manchester City drawing twice, away at Sunderland and at home against Chelsea. And Arsenal defeated Aston Villa and Bournemouth away, who they lost to twice last season. So Arsenal are now 6 points clear of Manchester City. Arsenal sort of showing that slight dip of form about 4 or 5 weeks ago really was just a dip, and that's now 5 wins in a trot on the trot for Arsenal. Man City starting to buckle slightly, showing a bit of the pressure. The way they conceded against Chelsea showed that they actually really couldn't control the situation.
Yeah, I think they only have themselves to blame, especially yesterday. They looked better, especially in the first half against Chelsea, but they failed to score the second goals. They conceded in the last seconds. So difficult for Manchester City, and now Arsenal are 6 points clear, and it's a big gap. In the last seasons, Arsenal lose games in the Christmas period, Christmas time. Now they win it, so maybe this is the year for them to finally being crowned champion.
15 points in the last 6 matches for Arsenal and Aston Villa, actually, despite the fact they lost to Arsenal. They acquired just as many points. Also mentioned for Brentford in 7th and Fulham in 11th. They both 5 matches unbeaten, and they've both won 11 points from their last 6 matches. There have been some brilliant performances, but last word on Fulham's draw against Liverpool, particularly the equalising goal. I'll leave that one for you.
The Reed's goal, I think it will be one of the best of the season. And the fact that it came in stoppage time, just after the second goal from Liverpool to equalize, it makes it even more impressive. So exceptional from Reed.
Right, let's park that there then, because we have to discuss other leagues, and we've basically used all our time. Right, so let's go over to Serie A. And I'll be honest, Friday and Saturday gave us a very bunch of Italian scorelines. It's only until Sunday that one team scored more than a single goal. On Friday, AC Milan doing just enough as ever, winning 1-0 at Cagliari. Then on Saturday, Como defeated Udinese 1-0. Then Genoa and Pisa drew 1-1. Pisa finally getting another point for the first time in a while. Sassuolo drew 1-1 against Parma. Juventus dropping points against Lecce. Big point for Lecce there. But also a huge disappointment for the old lady there. Atalanta's return to form continues, defeating Roma 1-0. Roma's form hitting a brick wall. Then on Sunday, a few more goals. Lazio were defeated 2-0 in Rome by Napoli. Napoli getting a couple of goals. Mad ending to the game where 3 players were sent off in the last 10 minutes. Fiorentina, they won! They won again. They showed that it can happen. Florence on fire, beating Cremonese 1-0. Moise Kean with a goal in stoppage time, although it was a dominant performance. Verona 0, Torino 3. Torino always just keeping just above the relegation battle. And Inter defeated Bologna 3-1 with goals from Zielinski, Lautaro Martinez and Thuram before Castro got a consolation goal. So we saw the top 3 winning again. We saw the top 3 pulling away from Juventus. That's now 4 points between Napoli in 3rd and Juventus in 4th. And Inter, Milan and Napoli all have a game in hand over Juventus. It has been consistently shown that these 3 are the teams in this type. At no point have these 3 teams wavered, really, or rather not dropped too far away. These 3 have always remained within touching distance of the top, haven't they?
Yeah,
and continue to show why.
Yeah, few weeks ago, we talked about the fact that there were 5 teams competing for the title with Roma and Juventus. But now it seems to have a real gap between AC Milan, Napoli, and Inter, especially with 1 game in hand to Juventus and Roma. So I think it's now, and it will remain, a 3-way race to the championship title. And it's becoming clearer because Juventus and Roma, they are inconsistent. I think they lack some essential points in the squad, especially in attack, because when you watch their games and squads, you can see that they have the same offensive issues. not for the same reasons, because Roma lack of a striker, a real striker, and Juventus got two with Lois Openda and Jonathan David, but they can't score, which is a big problem for them. So I think Napoli, Milan, and Inter are way better than these two teams.
We should point out that it's not as if Juventus are in a bad run of form. They've got 13 points from a possible 18. You know, it's not terrible. It's just that the three above them from their last 6 matches, Inter have had 15, AC Milan have had 16, and Napoli have had 15. So it's just like, despite the fact that Juventus have a decent form, the other three are just better. Yeah. We should also a little word on Como, because obviously they were struggling 3 or 4 weeks ago. But they've put together a good run of form. That's 4 wins in their last 6. And they are up to 6th. And they also have a game in hand over Roma and Juventus above them. So if they win that game, they'd be tied for 4th place in the final Champions League spot. So Como are actually currently going the distance.
Yeah. And more than that, they have a good defense. They are only conceded 12 goals this season, so it's a record in the league with Roma. They have scored 23 goals, which is interesting for a team. Only Inter Milan have scored more than 30. So they have a great squad with real qualities, both offensively and defensively. They have again a game in hand. So yeah, maybe they will play the Champions League next season, even if I think they will be more in Europa League or Conference League, because I think they still need to grow because their explosion is quite recent. I think they will need to grow 1 or 2 seasons more, especially if they are to lose Nico Paz to Real Madrid in the next months. So, but great season by Cesc Fabregas, man.
Absolutely. And a dip in form for Bologna and particularly Roma. Roma have only got 6 points from their last 18 available. What's happened there? Because that's only 2 wins in 6 matches and a lot of losses. So their defense seems to have been figured out slightly. And goals have always been a problem for them this season. But when they're keeping clean sheets, it wasn't an issue. And now it is.
Yeah, because as you said, they don't register clean sheet anymore. This was their big strength at from the early season. We've pointed out many times, but now they almost concede in every game. If you look at their last 6 games in Serie A, they have only registered 1 clean sheet against Como and conceded against Atalanta, Genoa, Juventus, Cagliari, and Napoli. Even if we have to say that it was tough oppositions, because they played, Napoli, Juventus, even Como and Atalanta. So maybe we have to put some perspective on it, but their defensive quality seems a little bit broken these times.
A word looking at the bottom of the table. So I was looking at sort of like the worst form in the league, arguably is Pisa. But in the last 4 matches, Genoa have only picked up 1 point from the last 4. And in that same period of time, Verona and Fiorentina have won, whereas teams like Lecce, Parma, have sort of pulled away. So at the bottom is Pisa. In fact, you got a 3-way tie at the bottom between Pisa, Fiorentina. That's right, they've caught up, and Verona are all on 12 points, but they are all 3 points behind Genoa in 17th. It does feel like Lecce have had a bit of a not purple patch, but they have actually won a couple of games in the last sort of 7-8 matches. They have got a bit of a gap. There's 5 points between them and Verona in 18th. So it does feel like having a look at the teams that are being pulled down and sort of like the ones that are not picking up those wins. Genoa are at risk, only 1 point, like I say, from the last 4 matches. And you've got a team like Fiorentina who are finally waking up, 3 points ahead. of Fiorentina, they have a chance. They've given themselves a chance, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, especially since, as you reminded, 3 teams are with 12 points. So if there is just, for example, Pizza, Fiorentina, or Verona winning a game and Genoa losing it, yeah, the things are will be completely rebalanced, and even the gap with Lecce, especially I'm talking for Fiorentina. I don't think it's a big gap, because Fiorentina have shown that they are capable of playing, they are capable of winning. We have said it many times these past weeks, but they have a good squad. I think they have a better squad than the last 5-6 teams in Serie A. So I don't think they will be relegated. They just need to finally find back their confidence and put their strength all together, and I think they will escape the relegation.
We should point out that there's actually, besides Genoa, there's another team that have only picked up 1 point from the last 4 matches, and that's Cremonese. I think at some point, probably about a month or so ago, we did talk about Cremonese sort of just being safe. It does feel that, because they are 9 points ahead of Verona, and that's quite a distance. It's one of those situations where Cremonese don't actually need to win that many matches between now and the end of the season. They're on 21 points. I think it's 32 gets you safe in Serie A usually. So, 6 draws and 1 victory between now and the end of the season, and chances are they're safe, which is lucky, because it does feel like actually they've been found out.
Yeah, they had a good start to the season, because they have only won 1 point on the last 4 games, but they have already won 5 games this season, registered 6 drawn, which is...
Aren't they the only team that have beaten AC Milan this year? Was it them that beat AC Milan on the opening day of the season?
On the opening I think, yeah. At San Siro. At San Siro. So big performance from them. I think they will save themselves also. We have to recall that they are a promoted team, so they are doing great.
Well, yeah, especially when you compare to, say, like Pisa, who never seem to have quite got into it. Right, we should say arrivederci to Serie A and go to La Liga, where more fun has been happening and actually some really fun results. So we've had some fun derbies this weekend across the leagues. We had the Paris derby in Ligue 1, but today, this weekend, was the Barcelona derby, the Catalan derby. So on Friday, Rayo Vallecano drew 1-1 against Getafe, and then on Saturday, Celta Vigo, remember them, all the 0-0s? They won 4-1 against Valencia, who really are in trouble now. Osasuna drew 1-1 with Athletic Club. Elche defeated at home 3-1 by a very impressive Villarreal. There could have been a bit of a banana skin, but they did brilliantly there. And then an intense match, Espanyol 0, Barcelona 2. Barcelona getting 2 late goals, Dani Olmo with 5 minutes remaining, and Lewandowski in the last of the 90. Although former Espanyol goalkeeper and now Barcelona stopper Joan Garcia was needed quite heavily during the match. And then on Sunday, possibly the most shocking result of the lot, won't mean much to everybody. Sevilla 0, Levante 3. Levante were bottom of the table and yet defeated Sevilla 3-0. Real Madrid 5, Real Betis 1 with a hat-trick for, you've guessed it, no you haven't, Gonzalo Garcia, the forgotten man, performed so admirably at the Club World Cups, kind of not used since then, and he scored not only his first La Liga goal, but a hat-trick as well. Also goals from Fran Garcia and Raul Asensio. Alaves drew 1-1 with Real Oviedo. That's right, they scored a goal. Mallorca 1, Girona 2. Valuable win for Girona as they try and move themselves away from the relegation zone. And the fast one is up. Real Sociedad 1, Atletico Madrid 1. So, I mean, first place to start, the Barcelona derby. It was quite fun, wasn't it? It was lacking in real quality, but it was feisty. It was intense. It's the sort of match you wanted. But eventually, Barcelona's quality shown at both ends of the pitch.
Yeah, and we have to point out, we have to give credits to the Espanyol fans for the real impressive atmosphere they put in the game. So bravo. And it was Barca's. I saw a stat. It was Barca's 29th game without defeat in the derby, which says a lot about their dominance in it. But
I suppose, sorry to jump in, but I suppose this is the first time in a long time that Espanyol actually felt like they could win, as in regards to they were having such a good season.
Yeah, because it wasn't an easy game for Barcelona, and the fact that Joan Garcia was named MVP of the game is quite. It says something about the game in itself. He made some impressive saves. Even if he's a young keeper, he wasn't put on the pressure of this kind of event, which is obviously never easy.
We should also point out, for those who aren't aware, that Joan Garcia was an Espanyol goalkeeper last season.
Yeah.
I grew up an Espanyol player and fan. So that it's not a done thing crossing this divide. There are more instances of players switching Barcelona and Real Madrid as opposed to swapping Espanyol for Barcelona. So he also was on the receiving end of a lot of I wouldn't say abuse, but sort of like heated atmosphere was aimed towards him, and pulling out a man of the match performance. It speaks highly of his temperament, doesn't it, and his mindset.
Yeah, and I think this was where the difference was between the two teams. The individual quality of certain players. We've mentioned Garcia, but we can also mention Fermin Lopez, who started the game as a substitute, and when he entered, he delivered 2 beautiful assists to set up the game for Barcelona. So I think it was not it was a collective victory, of course. Every victory is, but it was more one of individuals than really collective for Barcelona.
Quick word on Real Madrid. 5-1 against Real Betis. Potentially a difficult game against Betis, but Madrid is one of the few times this season where actually they've been completely imperious. They steamrolled them, and it was a really impressive performance from Gonzalo Garcia, who a rare outing for him, and he's repaid Xabi Alonso's faith.
Yeah, because we have to recall that Kylian Mbappe is injured, so and Endrick is now gone to Lyon. So Gonzalo Garcia added his chains, and he seized it perfectly, scoring a hat trick, and a perfect hat trick because he scored with the right foot, left foot, and the head. So he made this mark. You've mentioned it during the Club World Cup. We've talked about him during the shows, and it's cool. It's good for him to finally have the opportunity to show it in a big game in La Liga.
Also a word on Villarreal. So they're still third. They are tied with Atletico, although ahead of them on goal difference. But Villarreal, they are 7 points behind Real Madrid in second, but they do still have 2 games in hand. We were talking in the last couple of weeks about Villarreal starting to look slightly tired, and this is something we've discussed before about why potentially they struggle in the Champions League, the inability to rotate that much. But they really were impressive against a usually impressive Elche side, showing why they are in the top 4.
Especially since winning away at Elche is something really difficult because they were on a 8 no defeat streak. Villarreal, we saw that in the Champions League they got a bad result, and I think the fact that they are already eliminated from Champions League and also Copa del Rey, because they have been eliminated during this winter break, it's good for them in a sense, because they will be focused on the league, You've mentioned the 2 games they have to play, including one against Real Madrid. So it will be a really interesting one because they can close the gap with Real Madrid and Barcelona, overpassing Atletico. So only playing in La Liga, I think it will be a key factor for their end of the season.
Quick word. I mean, we're going to have a look at the bottom of the table, but I just wanted to have a quick word on Celta Vigo, who were in the early stages, say the first 10 matches, were sniffing around the relegation zone because of how many draws they'd had, and they were just outside it. They are now 4 undefeated. They've got 13 points from the last 18 available, which includes 4 wins, and they are currently what is it? 4th, 5th. They're 7th. They're 7th, and only 5 points behind Espanyol. Although Espanyol have a game in hand, but still, okay, 2 points behind Real Betis in 6th. So out of nowhere, Celta Vigo have put on a bit of consistency and actually could qualify for Euro, which is an astonishing turnaround. Perhaps a lesson for all those that are currently in the relegation struggle. So at the bottom, Oviedo on 12, Levante on 13. They have a game in hand. But then Valencia have stopped down. So Valencia, former champions as recent as, what was it, 2002, 2003? Only 16 points, 2 points behind Girona, Mallorca, and Real Sociedad. They're certainly not safe. All of whom are 1 point behind Rayo Vallecano and Alaves and Osasuna, and they are 1 point behind Sevilla. So 4 points separating 8 teams, and there are some big ones in there.
Yeah, which is why, even if Valencia's situation is really complicated, they are not already in troubles, because if they just have to win a game to maybe go to the 12th place, which is incredible considering they are 18th. But this club, they have been terrible since now. I don't know how many years, with the problems between the fans and the management.
Well, I was going to say, it's one of the situations where you understand all the protests and the fact that they have a half finished new stadium, which I do believe that's finally been sorted and is now going up for development again. But there is so much wrong going on at Valencia. Real risk for them, as well as Real Sociedad and Sevilla, who, of course, this week it was announced that Sergio Ramos is leading a takeover potentially of Sevilla of about 400 million euros. And of course, then they followed that up with a 3-0 home loss against 19th place Levante. Bottom place Levante at the time. Right, so we should leave La Liga there. And with a final stop along to France, we're going to go to Ligue 1. And my goodness, France was red. In this case, we had lots and lots of early red cards dictating results. So on Friday night, Lens maintained their lead at the top of Ligue 1 with a 3-0 victory at Toulouse. Toulouse had a man sent off after 23 minutes. And it was 0-0 at half-time, but Lens find the goals in the second half. And then, my goodness me, Monaco 1, Lyon 3. You can probably talk about this one because it involved a minor assault, a karate kick in someone's chest. But Lyon won that 3-1 after Monaco were reduced to 10 men. Nice drew at home to Strasbourg. That's right. How good is Liam Rossigna and is fit for Chelsea? Well, he drew at Nice, and everybody beats Nice.
And it's not nice,
yeah. And then Lille lost at home 2-0 against Rennes, although Lille had a man sent off after 13 minutes. That's right. There's something in the water. It's that week break that Ligue 1 have had. They're all rusty. And then on Sunday, it continues. Marseille had a man sent off after 26 minutes, and they lost at home to lowly Nantes. That's right. Marseille, who were in the title hunt, surely are now out of it. 2-0 there. 2-0 humbling. Brest got a couple against Auxerre. Nice win for Brest. Le Havre beat Angers 2-1. Lorient and Metz 1-1, a result that does neither of them that much good. And then the Paris derby. PSG were made to sweat, but they just squeaked through 2-1. Let's have a quick chat about the Paris derby. The first Parisian derby in, I think, what was it, 40-odd years in the league?
The last one was in 1990. So 36 years. Yeah.
And actually, it was surprisingly Paris FC have not had a great season, and they're a real risk of relegation. But they put up a real fight in this one, and have to be applauded for that.
Yeah, but to be honest, the result doesn't really reflect the nature of the game. Because even when Paris FC equalized, everyone was suspecting PSG would eventually pull one goal again. And 3 minutes later or 2 minutes later, they did with Ousmane Dembele. PSG had a lot of trouble in the early season with all the injured players, and they are now back. Desiré Doué, who has suffered 2 injuries this season, he played well, maybe, and perhaps the PSG's best offensive player against Paris FC, and it's good for them because they will need them if they want to achieve back-to-back in the Champions League, because I don't know if you remember, but Luis Enrique told at the beginning of the season that winning the Champions League title for the second time in a row is the objective of PSG this season, and they will not do it without their Ballon d'Or and all their talented players. So good thing for him to have them back.
We're going to concentrate on, first a quick word on Lens, who had a fairly easy ride, but I suppose it's one of those things where with Toulouse being dismissed having man dismissed so early on, Lens just had to be patient, and they took their time, but then they ended up, it was an easy victory for them eventually. But they earned it, didn't they? They didn't panic, they just stayed calm.
Yeah, they did. And with this win, they finished autumn champions. So in France, it's the honorary title give to the first team in the table at the end of the first 17th games. So something seems to be happening in Ligue 1, even if we will need to wait, of course. But it's only the fourth time since 2011 and the arrival of Qatar at PSG that another team claimed the title at the end of the first phase of the league. And yeah, now the question is whether they can keep up the pace with PSG, which is obviously difficult and the hardest part.
Yeah, well, we should say as well, it's not we're not also saying that PSG have their level has dipped. This is very much Lens have risen to the challenge. Yeah. Looking down at the bottom as well, so Metz and Auxerre on 12 points. Nantes are in the relegation playoff spot on 14, but only 2 points behind Paris FC. Paris have not had a great return to league, have they? Because obviously such wealthy owners, and there's such a spotlight on their return. Yet it's not really. They've not really. Speaking of rising to the occasion with Lens, they've not really risen to it, have they? It seems like they sort of kind of crept into the league. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Because in my opinion, the player they recruited during the summer, they are not doing very well so far. They have completed their record transfer with Otavio in as a centre back. He's not been doing great. The forwards they signed also, so there is a problem, and I think they will put some money on the market this winter because they need to. They are only 2 points clear of the relegation zone. So, of course, for the Arnaud project and Red Bull, because Red Bull is involved in the club, they absolutely need to stay in La Liga.
We should also point out that Nice had a very credible draw at home to Strasbourg, which is just as well, because this is a bit of a funny thing. It's like, obviously, Nantes had that incredible victory at Marseille, and Marseille really shot themselves in the foot here. I think it was Vermeeren who got sent off after only 26 minutes. And in fact, Marseille were down to 9 men in the 56th minute. Nadir got a second yellow card. Marseille really showed a lack of composure and a lack of intelligence, didn't they, in this match?
Yeah, they did, and I think it was their worst performance of the season so far, and one of their worst of De Zerbi's era. They received 2 red cards, conceded a goal from Rémi Cabella, who played at Marseille a few years ago. And most importantly, they are now 8 points behind Lens, and only 2 ahead of Lyon and Rennes. So it has been a really tough time for Marseille. They have only won one game in their last 4. They traveled to Kuwait to play Paris Saint-Germain on Thursday in the French Super Cup. Sorry.
I forgot about that.
Which is, you can laugh about it. And then they will play the French Cup, return to action in Liga. So they absolutely need to win points if they don't want to be ejected from the Champions League spot.
Yeah, and as you say, now that the top 2 are fighting, Lens on 40 points, Paris Saint-Germain on 39, and then Marseille on 32, Lille on 32. They missed a chance because they lost at home to Rennes, but again, Lille had a man sent off after 30 minutes. But then, Marseille 32, Lille 32, Lyon 30, and Rennes 30. So it is a real battle for the last Champions League places. Sorry, the reason I was saying that before was about Nice. So Nice had a 1-1 draw against Strasbourg. With Nantes winning, that is now a gap of only 4 points between Nice and the relegation playoff spot, which is, I went back and looked. I think at one point, the gap between them and that spot was 14 points or 13 points, something like that. There's no reason why Nice ever, but that's how bad Nice have been. I think it was 7 losses in a row before this. So 1 point out of a possible 20-something. That's worse than Burnley's. Burnley have only got 2 points from 33. So Nice are not safe. They, Hey, look at that. Ineos might have to do a managerial change there as well. Right, so let's move on there. I'm so sorry. I don't think we've got time for an AFCON review, unless do you want to have a quick roundup of the group stage and then let us know what's happening in the knockouts.
Yeah, because we are actually in the round of 16 with Egypt winning 1-0 against Benin right now. I want to just talk about the situation of Tunisia, who have been terrible against Mali. They were up to 11 men against 10 for basically an hour, and they didn't manage to qualify. So terrible performance. I don't know what you think about it, but I don't think there is a team that strikes me like, okay, they are the real contender to win the title. I really liked Cameroon, for example. I think they are doing extremely good. But before the competition started, I was seeing Morocco or Senegal winning it, but they have failed to convince me. I don't know what you think.
I would agree with that. So for those of you who aren't aware, the group stage, basically all the countries that you imagine would get through did get through in first and second places, although you had a couple of really fun surprise third place teams that went through, like Mozambique or Tanzania. So the knockout rounds currently, Senegal beat Sudan. Mali somehow beat Tunisia. That was a strange one. Morocco sneaked past Tunisia 1-0. The big clash was South Africa against Cameroon. So Cameroon defeated South Africa, despite the fact South Africa had nearly 67% possession, nearly twice as many shots. But Cameroon game management, essentially, was really, really, really impressive. Egypt are currently beating Benin. Nigeria will play Mozambique. Algeria and Democratic Republic of Congo. That should be a fun game.
This will be fun, yeah.
Yeah, before defending champions Ivory Coast face Burkina Faso. So it's quite interesting. Usually AFCON is one of the more entertaining international tournaments because it's so unpredictable and quite chaotic. And it feels like it wasn't that in the group stages because everything's gone as planned. But now we're in the knockouts. It could be just a simple mistake as the last thing, right? So in regards to Tunisia, somehow they conceded a penalty in the 6th minute of stoppage time, and which allowed Mali, 10-man Mali, to equalise. And that's all she wrote. So the quarterfinals, Mali versus Senegal. Senegal definitely favourites, but that's quite an interesting one. And Cameroon against Morocco. So now you're getting the big lads against each other, the favourites. So the quarterfinals are going to be very exciting.
Yeah, concerning the Senegal versus Mali game, I think I could bet that Senegal would have preferred to play against Tunisia, because Mali, they are a tough team. I think they will play to go on penalties. Even Tom Saint-Fief, who is their manager, said at a press conference that he could win the title without winning a game, because they haven't won a single game so far.
But of course, have they not scored? No, it's like
no,
there was a team.
Yeah,
Sudan.
Sudan.
That was it. So
but
Sudan
they
made it
scored
through
against Senegal.
Yeah. That was incredible. A team qualifying for the next round without having scored a goal.
But this is the problem. I think it's a problem for the tournaments, not only the AFCON, but also the World Cup and everything, to have like 3 qualified teams in group of 4. The problem is that the group stage isn't really intriguing, because you know that practically everyone will
you get one win and you're through.
You just
and unfortunately the World Cup's adopting it, because originally the World Cup in the United States, Mexico, and Canada was going to be 3-team groups. But of course, someone pointed out the fact that the last time that happened, there was a massive controversy where 2 teams essentially agreed to let one team win 1-0, because that meant both teams went through. So therefore, you get that kind of thing where, like, the third match, because they're not played at the same time, there is it's competitive imbalance. But what we all do is next time we chat, that'll have been the quarterfinals would have finished, so we can have a chat about the semifinals and the most interesting things so far. Before we go, anything that we've missed that you want to raise our attention to?
Oh, I had Wilfried Nancy being dismissed from Celtic.
Yeah, me too.
But we've talked about it. So I got another. Have you ever been told about Kazuyoshi Miura? This 58 years old Japanese
the Japanese player. Yes,
yeah.
his career continues. His 42nd year as a footballer, something like that.
Yeah, he began his career in 1986, so 14 years ago. And
that's a good one.
A fun fact: he inspired the character of Olivia Hatton in Olive and Tom. I don't know if it's the English name for the show, but it's impressive. And I would like to be in his physical form at almost 60.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he only played 9 times last year, so perhaps he is slowing down slightly.
But he needs to train and to travel and everything. So,
go, granddad, you. I suppose the one thing I would say, like, because I forgot to bring up earlier, something you may have missed, is the next round of Premier League matches. We have another midweek in Premier League, and then next weekend it's the FA Cup, the third round of the FA Cup. A couple of things I'd say may have missed. Newcastle United are down in 9th place. Very inconsistent season, but 2 wins on the bounce, and now they're only 2 points behind the Champions League spots. This month they have 9 matches, 7 of which are at St James's Park. And in that time, there's a Carabao semi-final, 2 leggers against Manchester City. They have a third round of the FA Cup at home. But 7 home matches out of 9 in January could dictate what kind of season they have. But the big one I was going to say is in the midweek matches, 17th place Nottingham Forest visit 18th place West Ham United. So it may well be that is Nuno's last match in charge. Well, that's the thing. So here's the thing: if Nottingham Forest win that, they are 7 points clear of relegation, and West Ham are 7 points behind. That could be insurmountable at that stage. And West Ham United, to be clear, I think have the 7th biggest wage budget in the Premier League. This is not a small club. This is not one of the middle classes. They are a big spending, big compared to some.
Yeah.
This is a sizable, usually secure Premier League side, and yet this is literally a must-win for West Ham and Nuno.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he might be gone as well. That was it. That was
even for Shandaish, because if he lost to West Ham,
if they lost to West Ham, that'd be 5 losses on the bounce for Shandaish. So that'd be quite. And I believe 7 out of 8. So not great. Right. Do you want a little question before I have to? Because obviously I have to run off.
Yeah, let me know.
Do you have any questions? Do you have any trivias you want to give my way?
No, that's your sport.
All right. All right. It's a nice easy one. So Brentford won 4-2 at Everton, which was an incredible performance. But also Igor Thiago scored a hat-trick for Brentford and is now second place in the Premier League table for top goal scorer with 14 goals behind Erling Haaland. I have 2 questions based around this. Question number 1. If Haaland is first with 19 and Igor Thiago is second with 14, who's third?
Hugo Ekitike?
No.
No?
I'll give you a clue. It's for a team in the bottom half.
Okay. I don't have any idea.
Fair enough. I'll give you one last clue. They have a very well published release clause.
No, I don't.
Sorry,
know.
sorry. Soon to be Manchester City's Antoine Semenyo is currently third with 9 goals.
Okay.
But that's kind of amazing, actually. Third place is only 9 goals.
He didn't score for how many?
A while, but yeah, that's how well he started the season. But yes, that's one question based around that. But Igor Thiago scored obviously a hat-trick for Brentford. There have been 4 hat-tricks in the Premier League this season. Can you name the 4 players?
Erling Haaland should have scored 1.
No.
Oh,
none.
Okay.
Yeah.
Antoine Semenyo did?
No, he didn't. Not in the Premier League.
No way.
Okay, first clue. It's there's another Brentford player. Brentford are responsible for half the hat-tricks in the Premier League this year. It was actually only 2 weeks ago, I think, 2-3 weeks ago. Kevin Schade got a hat-trick for Brentford only a few weeks ago. The other 2, one was for Arsenal and one was for Palace.
Eberechi Eze scored.
Eze scored a hat-trick against Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah.
The team he almost joined.
Yeah, I remember this one. And the other one from Tottenham, you said?
No. The other one was Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace.
And in fact, the same player missed an absolute sitter in the 8th minute stoppage time to win it.
Would it be Jean-Philippe Mateta?
It would.
Yeah.
Bravo, young man. Yes. So Mateta, Eze, Schade, and Thiago. It's quite funny that Brentford, again, 2 hat-tricks for Brentford. 7th place Brentford. How exciting. Right, we need to bring that to a close because I need to go somewhere else, essentially. But also, we spoke a long time about managers. Keep your eyes on the news this week because my instinct tells me that I think Gareth Southgate's going to be the caretaker manager for Manchester United. And West Ham United will probably just hire a caretaker at this point to take charge because no one else could do any worse. Thank you so much for joining me today, Leo. Thank you for sharing the new year with me.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone who have been watching us. Do not hesitate to follow us on socials, YouTube. Put a like and a comment. It helps us.
Of course. And feel free to send messages and questions. We'll do our best to answer. So, yes, join us next week. I think the Bundesliga is back next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have the full contingent of all 5 leagues.
With Lennart Carl wanting to go to Real Madrid.
Taste? No, but we can have time. I'll leave that on that juice bar. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Have a great week. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, great week. Goodbye.